Good evening. We're up to Daf Tzadik Gimel, and we're holding 3 lines from the top. So we're in the sugya of smicha. In the sugya of smicha, yesterday we saw a lot of limudim regarding a machloikis between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, exactly smicha for the kabbanis of the tzibur, which exactly is he speaking about. And today we're going to get the more technical halachas of smicha, the more technical halachas of smicha. So we said that one of the halachas we said is the yoresh is saimech, that if a man dies and he leaves over a child, the yoresh is saimech. Tane Reb Chanina, kamei de Rava, yoresh ein a saimech, yoresh ein a meimer. So Reb Chananya, I said Reb Chanina, so Reb Chananya said in front of Rava that a yoresh, the opposite of our Mishnah, he doesn't do smicha, and he also cannot make a tamura, which our Mishnah said he could. Fred the Gemara, Banan Tanan and our Mishnah, hayoresh saimech umaybe as nesachav, right, umeimar. A Yoresh Saimech, he brings this accompanying the Sachem and he can make a Tamura. So Amalei, so Rava said to Rab Chananya, so Rab Chananya said to Rava, Ibchai, should I switch around the Brisa? You know, sometimes the Brisas will corrupt. So maybe I should switch it around and say you can't do Smicha, and you can't do Meimar. Amalei, so Rava said, Loi, Masnisan money, who is the Tana of this Brisa, is Rabbi Yehuda. Right, the Tanya, Yorish Soimich, Yorish Meimar, Rabbi Yehuda, Yorish Ein Soimich, Yorish Ein Meimar. A Yorish does not do Smicha, and the Yorish does not do. So that price is reflecting the opinion of the Tana, Rabbi Yehuda, who says a Yorish cannot. So now we're going to get into the Machloikis. What's the reason that like the Chachamim a Yorish could, and that's the reason like Rabbi Yehuda that a Yorish cannot. My time with Rabbi Yehuda, it says Karbanoi. So we saw yesterday, it says in the Parsha of Shlomim 3 times in Pasuk Beis and Pasuk Beis Zion and Yud Beis in Perik Gimel. It says the lashon of Karbanoi, and we're going to go ahead and darshan Karbanoi v'loi Karban Aviv. So there he's out his carbon and dafka Karban Aviv. Do you do smicha? V'yolif tchilas hegdish misayf hegdish, and you'll learn out the beginning of hegdish and sayf hegdish. Right, the beginning of hegdish is tamura because you're creating the carbon. The sayf hegdish is the smicha, because we're saying take if the smicha shchita. Rashi says as soon as you do smicha, you're going to shecht. So that's the beginning of the process. So we're going to say take if the smicha shchita, and therefore so we're going to learn out tamura from what? From smicha. So smicha we have a limud karbanoi v'le karban aviv, and we'll learn out what? Tamura from that. It's just like the beginning of the smicha is out of the ballpark for a Yorish, so too is the ability to make a tamura out of the ballpark for a Yorish. Masay feg the Yorish and the Samech have to say the Yorish and the Meimar. For Rabbanon, they don't learn from the I was going to ask obviously what they do with Karbano, but Hama Yamir, the double lashon, the Rabbi says a Yorish, it's to include the Yorish in Tamura, and the Chachamim fellows they're going to learn the opposite. Rabbi Yehuda, who learned the beginning from the end, they're going to learn the end from the beginning. So just like Yolav Seif Hegdish, they learn out the end of Hegdish, meaning the Smicha, Mitchilas Hegdish from Tamura. So Matchilas Hegdish, Yoirish, Meimar, can make a Tamura because you have a double Lashon, right, to include a Yoirish. Af Seif Hegdish, so too the end of Hegdish, meaning that the Smicha, Yoirish Saimech. Good? So now you have, so Rabbanan have Hamayamir, and they learn out the end from the beginning, and Rabbi Yehuda has Karbano, and you learn out the beginning from the end. Okay. Rabbanan, high karbanoi my avdilei. What do they do with Rabbi Yehuda's limud? Says Gemara karbanoi v'loi karbanoi v'kechavim, and karbanoi v'loi karban chaveroi. And the third one, karbanoi l'rabis kol balei karban l'smicha. That if you have a partnership, that all these balei karban are in the ballpark for smicha. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda l'rabis kol balei karban l'smicha less. He doesn't hold a bit, so therefore he has the karbanoi extra. Guys. Rabbi Yehuda, they asked, what does Rabbi Yehuda do with what does the Chum do with Rabbi Yehuda's Karbano? They dash in that any part of the partnership have to do smicha. Anyone who's part of the partnership has to do smicha. Anyone who's part of the partnership has to do smicha. And so we just Rabbi Yehuda learn out. He doesn't hold that way. He says that one does it, and you don't need the whole kit and caboodle to go ahead and do smicha. Vinami or else islay we have 3 limudim. So he puts Ovi Kechav Mechaver in one pasuk, and Ayisla Trey Kroy. Now he has 2 extra. Chad Karbon V'le Karban Aviv, one for Yorish, Bidach Rabbis called Balei Korban L'Smicha. So there's two limudim, whether Rabbi Yehuda holds of it or not, but the bottom line is he uses up his Karbano, and the Chacham uses Karbano to tell me called Balei Nefesh. Now, Rabbi Yehuda, they learned Hamayamir. And therefore, why you could make a tamura. Rabbi Yehuda, who says you can't make a tamura, hi hamayamir my avidle. What does he do with the limit of the chachamim? Mi boilel Rabbi says to Isha to go ahead and include Isha that she could make a tamura. The Tanya, the whole pasha of tamura is written in the masculine. I would say mas soifel Rabbi says to Isha tamad leima hamayamir. So I would think in the end you're not kamash malon that you are. You need a limit that you are. Rabbanon. Darshan mevi'im, they darshan ve'im hamayamer. They darshan from the vav. Rabbi Yehuda ve'im like Darish, he doesn't make the drasha. So we have the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. Do you need tamura? And it's gebunden. Tamura and smicha are tied together, right? According to Rabbi Yehuda, we're going to learn out you don't do smicha from karbanoi, and therefore you don't you don't learn at the beginning of tchilas hegdesh a tamura from it, and you can't do a tamura. According to Chachamim hamayamer, you could do tamura, and therefore you learn at the end smicha from that. Okay. Hakol Soimchin, everyone would do smicha. Now, it's so geshmak. You say Hakol Soimchin was for everybody. And now you get a whole list of people who can't. It's funny. Hakol Soimchin, everyone does smicha. Chutz, Micheresh, Shaita v'Cotton, V'Suma, V'Avikachavim, V'Evet, V'Ashliach, V'Isha. That's quite a long list. And the Gemara is going to go through each one. Usmicha shiori mitzvah. In addition, smicha is considered shiori mitzvah, meaning if you don't do it, it's not ma'akiv. Meaning, if you don't do it, it's not ma'akiv. If you don't do it, it's not ma'akiv. You didn't do the mitzvah in the best way, but if you don't do it, it's not ma'akiv. Ala roish, where's the location on the animal, on the head? The base yadayim with both hands, not one hand. Uvemokim shesoimchim sheichtim. And the place where you do smicha, you're going to shecht. To take if the smicha shchita, the Gemara says, and the reason is because right after smicha you're going to do shchita. So that's the reason why in the azara it has to be in the azara. Where right? Makom does not. No. Yeah, I learned that way also initially, but I corrected myself because it made no sense. Right. So, alter ego. You should. What do you think? Okay. Now bishlei mecheres shaita v'cotton the lav b'nei de'eninu bishlei mecheres shaita v'cotton the lav b'nei de'eninu. So it's interesting, guys, right? You see, you need epis kavana, fellas, but it's smicha. It's a physical act, but it's accompanied usually with kavana. Think about the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur's mizvada, the chet. And in fact, when you did smicha on your carbon, you had thoughts, you had machshavas, you had kavanas. There's the Ramban that says when you bring a carbon, it's a neder and a dava. Right? Really, what are you saying? That I love you, Hashem, I want to bring to you something. What's the most thing you can bring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is yourself. But Hashem doesn't allow that. So this is taking your place. So the assumption is at the time of the smicha, you're transmitting those thoughts into the animal. Memela, a chereshet of a cotton physically can put their hands on the animal, but the thought process of it, the aspect of thought and kavana that's required for a proper smicha, they don't have. Avikecham certainly does have it, but Nami, but he's we have a pasuk Bnei Yisrael Saimchim Vein Avikecham Saimchim. That Bnei Yisrael does smicha and a guy doesn't. El asuma my time aloi. What's the reason? Asuma not. Yes, David. Yes, David. You're raising your hand.
Yeah, I was muted. We said carbonoi will I We said carbonoi will I Why are we doing that? Why are we doing now the Russia of Bnei Yisrael?
The La Bnei Avicham Nami Bnei Yisrael Samchin. So why do we need another limit you have for carbono?
Yeah.
I guess this again the time of this brisa holds that carbono will be used for something else. Right? We had other things to use it for.
Okay.
Right? So that's a good kasha. So l'chayra, you could use it for something else. Okay. I hear. Now, my asuma my time aloi. Why? What's the reason asuma not? Now it says v'somchu ziknei eda. They go ahead by the korban helam davar. They're putting their hands on the animal, and so you're going to learn out asuma. You're going to learn out smicha from ziknei ha'eda. That asuma cannot. Why? Because who is doing it is the Canaan. Zakanim can't have a mum. Fellas, the people at Sanhedrin have to be like similar to Moshe Rabbeinu. They have to be without a mum. So Memela, if he's a summa, he has a mum. So Memela, you know that what? If the parsha of smicha it says Zakanim, so Memela summa is can't do smicha because he's not he was not similar to what to a member of Sanhedrin. Now, this really is, guys, the following. You're learning out that the carbon oilas re'iyah, and we have a limit for what the oilas re'iyah needs smicha. So now, if the oilas re'iyah needs smicha and it says yeroeh, and it says by oil regel yeroeh, and the summa can't see, so right. So therefore, what?
We have to also that he has to be seen.
Yeah, that's the limit. Yira ki yira, right? That's back and forth, right? So therefore, so that's the limit. Yira, and the summa is cannot. So we have two possibilities. Why is the summa out of the ballpark? Two possibilities, right? There's two possibilities. Either one is you learn from Zakanim, or you learn out from what? From Yira, from the Oilas Re'iyah. My time now. Ulamanda Omar me Oilas Re'iyah, my time will yolaf mi Ziknei Eda. Why does he learn out from Ziknei Eda on the base? It's done in Yachid mi Yachid, being done in Yachid mi Tzibur. He'd rather learn out an individual, a summa, from an individual, rather than an individual from the best end, from the Zikanim. Ulamanda yolaf mi Ziknei Eda, my time will yolaf mi Oilas Re'iyah. Done in midi dechsiv be smicha begufei, memidi dechsiv be smicha begufei, lafuke oilas re'iyah, the high gufa me oilas nedava gamra. Guys, outside. By the you're learning on oilas re'iyah to blind. Oilas re'iyah doesn't say smicha. You're going to learn that from oilas nedava in a second. So I'd rather go ahead and learn out from Samchu Ziknei Eda when it says mafurish the words the shoyrish samich mem chaf, rather than this to this. So the advantage of learning from Oilas Re'iyah is Yachid to Yachid, and the disadvantage is Tzibur. The advantage of learning from the Tzibur, it says Samacha open. Masha Enkein, the disadvantage of learning from Oilas Re'iyah is because it doesn't say by the Oilas Re'iyah smicha, that you learn out from the Oilas Nedava. Now, where do you learn out from the Oilas Nedava? The Tani Tana Kamei Rabbi Yitzchak bar Abba, Vayakri Vesa Oila, this is right by the Miluyim, Vayasel Kamishpat, what Mishpat? You should go ahead. This is an oilas chayva. Kimishpat oilas nedava. Limit oilas chayva shetuna smicha. So we see the oilas chayva of the miluyim, and for any others for future generations, like the oilas or re'iyah, needs smicha. So therefore, you have machlokes summa. Is you learn it out from zkanim, or do you learn it out from what yeroya? Each one has their point. Okay, I have a very nice shiloh over here. So we know there are people. The Yorush can do smicha, right? We know that the Yorush can do smicha. Now listen to the shaila. I have it in my ksavim, and I thought I'd share it with you. It's the first piece there. Take out. I sent it out on your phones, guys. Do you see Rashi letters or not? Labrius. You see Rashi letters, right? Okay. Says this is the Minchas Chinuch, Kuf Tesvav, guys. Minchas Chinuch, Simin Kuf Tesvav. Listen to the Shaila. Ulachar yesh safik. Had the Yoris Soimich. Efsha, Dafka Shiyorish HaKarbin Me Oisai Shahaya Ben Smicha. Kigain Me Aviv, Oy Me Shar Yoshim. In other words, when he inherits the carbon to do smicha on, it's l'chayra. It should only be on a person who himself was mechuyev to do smicha, and he's inheriting that right. Avolim yorish me'imai, let's say he inherits from his mother, right? A child inherits his mother. Shlei hoisa bas smicha, who by smicha, she can't do smicha. Oy misuma, ukedaima, imkain, ha-karbon azel lo nischayev b'smicha klal. So guys, l'chayra, this is a chakira in the chefzo of the gavra. Right? In the Shail Nechetzo the Gavra. Efsha, the Eina Yaris Soimech, why? The Yaris Schus, Shleichaya Eitzel Merishoy. The one who gave it to him didn't have that schus to give it over. Ach, Bipshata loshin mashma the soymich b'cholinyan. It's mashma from the loshin that a yorish is soymich no matter what. I am b'gemara Menachos tzadikimel we're holding kivin the hu bar chiyuva since he's a bar chiyuv chala alav hamitzvah. Good. So therefore, the Minchas Chinuch is saying that even if he inherits from his mother, Pashid, he would go ahead wad and so again, guys, this is a classic Cheftza Gavra Shaila. Is it if it's then in the Gavra, then he won't be do smicha because the mother is not a bar Yorish. But if it's a din in the Cheftza and the animal, then you would. Anyway, he's being posted that you would. Upashit to lehepech. For example, isha sheyarsha carbon me'avia, a woman who inherits the carbon from the father. Afagav da carbon azel hoisim mutelis mitzvah smicha. Even though in this carbon there was a mitzvah smicha, we come up on kivin sha'isha eina bas smicha eina semechas kein near a pashit. So it seems pashit to me. Yeah, it's geshmaka shaila, guys. It's geshmaka shaila to give it a little flavor over here. Okay, the next one also is geshmak, guys. Listen to this. The next one. V'hinei. Im isha samcha im malkin I say melav leisavoi bibachar. Ain't a borrower. Guys, outside, look at me. If you're going to do smicha on a carbon, right, you're using the carbon. In other words, bishleim, if you're kind of mitzvah smicha, that's great. But putting your hands on a carbon, you have no right to do that. So maybe would she get malchus? In other words, if let's say there was no din of smicha and you did smicha, l'chayra, in other words, a carbon doesn't require smicha, you get malchus for it. So here's the kasha. This carbon is a bar smicha, right? This carbon is a bar smicha, right? It's in the ballpark, right? Because if it wasn't, and the isha does it, would you get malchus or not? Do you say that since it's a bar smicha, they took off that level? Or you say, no, look at the woman. Again, it didn't the chefs of the gavra, the same type of way to look at it, right? The same type of way to look at it. So let's see the second side. So v'hinei, emisha samcha and malkin aysam milad le'sava b'bechor ain't a barer. The efsha kivin da Torah tiru beferish kan avoida bekotchim, right? Ve'im nashim b'bnei Yisrael soim chayis v'loy b'nei Yisrael efsha doya hadre li surah kama. Maybe it doesn't go back. In other words, this carbon, you're permitted to go ahead, and do it. It just happens to be that she's not allowed to do it. But in the hefts of the carbon, they took it off. So Ken Zain that she won't get malchus for being involved with kachim, or no? That now, and he brings the source. The Inyan hahadre hu ian amik. It's a deep matic of Mishnah Melech. He quotes different psukim. So again, two shilas in the Minchas Chinuch l'chayra going ahead and playing off this issa chefsa issa gavra is, in other words, if is it a din in the carbon, din in the person. He was paisha l'chayra. It's a din what in the person because he said if a man inherits his mother, he still would do what smicha. He's not sure, however, by what by the animal. If the woman does do an animal that is a bar smicha, would she get or not? That he's not sure about. Okay, there's going to be another one. Okay, guys, it's I think it's it was. I could really bring this in every night, but the Minchas Chinuch is geschmack as anything. The shilas in yeshiva they learn Minchas Chinuch as a way of teaching you how to learn. It's a very interesting mahalach, and it's very usable. It used to be very unusable because he was so poor that he wrote down everything in Rashi Tevis, and forget about figuring it out. Just figuring out the Rashi Tevis, you were happy because he couldn't even afford a pencil, fellas. He couldn't afford a pencil. So if you look at the old Minchas Chinuch, they had all these Rashi Tevis that were difficult. The new ones are so beautiful. Like you just saw, they have label on the outside exactly what the Indian is. They're really geschmack. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan. It said va'eved va'ashliach va'isha. Right? So we said that an eved and a shliach v'isha, they don't do smicha. Tanu Rabbanan. Now it says again in the parsha where it says karbano, in the same pasuk it says yado. The samach yado. Yodo. It says yado. It says Yado, v'lo yad avdo. Now, this is speaking of an Eved Kanaini, fellas, right? Yado, v'lo yad shlucho. Even though we say shlucho shlodin kamoso, right? Over here, we're going to exclude a shliach from smicha. Yado, v'lo yad ishto. We're going to exclude what? His wife from smicha. Okay. So the David is going to ask. The said the whole parsha was written what in Zacha. Right, so therefore you would think a woman not. So we included the woman, the Indian, we included the woman. Oh, that was in Tamura, right? Excuse me, that was in Tamura. So that's the Indian Tamura. So here, Yadoi v'lo Yadishtoi. Kol Hani Lamali. Why do you need all of them? So Tzricha, you need all of them. I Kasarachmana Chad. If you would have just written one of them, Havamina Lamute Eved. The lav bar mitzvah. It's not a bar mitzvah. Aval shliach the bar mitzvah who v'shucha shalom kamoisay ema lismoich. V'lashmina hanitarti the eved and the shliach the lav kegufay damya. They're not part of him. Aval ishtay the kegufay damya ema tismoch. So tzrichi talminat. So it's very interesting, fellas. You see, ishta kegufay is not a mustavar. You guys, you see, ishta kegufay is not a mustavar. You would have a havami, and since she's like him, she can do it. Kamash Malana. Okay, Geshmaka Taisvus here, guys. Yadai v'lo yad ishtay. Mehad ichsiv b'nei Yisrael l'mutei nashim esmicha. So David, this is your kasha. This is the kasha. David Friedman. This is your kasha. This is the kasha you should have hit. It says so l'chayr mehad ichsiv b'nei Yisrael l'mutei nashim esmicha. So why did you have to say yadai? Right, the same kasha, Reb David. Right? Why do you have to? You excluded it already. So why do you have to say yadai? Like nafki ishtay. The havamina tismaich b'karbon baila. In other words, in someone else's carbon, her carbon she can't, but you might think in her husband's carbon she could. The kiyad baila danya. Fact is the kasha, guys. Why do you need the limit of yada? You just excluded that, right? Excluded. You said that what? That she's out of the ballpark. It says bnei Yisrael. It says bnei Yisrael, right? We said bnei Yisrael, and women are out of the ballpark, right? So why did you need yado to exclude? So the answer is because you would think that since it's the husband's carbon, it's kegufa damya, and you would. And I would say Bnei Yisrael is her own carbon. So Kamashmalon, you need a special limit for a husband's carbon. Beautiful teretz. The im taimar. V'lama likra lemute noshim mismicha, typically the mitzvahs essay shas man grama. Im takif l'smicha shchita deraisa. If you're going to say takif l'smicha shchita is deraisa, kidam perikal psulim, da afilu samach b'seifa laila takif la'amar hashachar tzarich lishchait adayin es atomit chila. In other words, guys, shchita is only during the day. Shchita is only during the day. Takif l'smicha shchita. So therefore, it has to be that what? That Mama Samich l'shchita was the smicha. So l'chayr, why do you need a miyat of yadot to get a woman out of the ballpark? It's the mitzvah says man grama. One more time. If a woman doesn't wear tzitzis because Laila loves man tefilahu, a woman, let's say shchita, smicha is the same thing as shchita because it's simultaneous, right? One after the other. So if shchita is only during the day, and we know it's only during the day, so therefore a woman should be out of the ballpark because it's the mitzvah says man grama. Geschmack? Okay, continues Taisvis. Oitam perik based the Megillah. Kol hayom kosher l'smicha u'l'shchita. Darish b'gemara dechsiv b'yoyim ziv chavchem v'iske shmicha l'shchita dechsiv v'shacha v'samach. Basically, he did not give a teretz, correct? Taisvis did not give a teretz to the kasha. So the teretz to the kasha, guys, is found in Kiddushin, Daf Lamed Vav. And here's the other marmok I might put on the screen. You see Hebrew letters and Rashi letters? Okay, good. Okay, see, look, I underlined you see, I put a blue marker. And obviously, the guys, look at the guys on the screen, underneath the blue marker, it says Miu Mismicha, right? Okay, so guys in Taisus count down a considerable amount. It's the beginning of the word is Lameimar, the Mechali Avoida Avodasim Psula. Right? Miu. You see that the word Avodasim Psula? I'd say about 16, 17 lines down. You have Yesh Leimar. On the end of the line of Yesh Leimar you have. Count down below that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines below that. You have it? Yes or no? No one's talking to me. I'm talking to myself. You don't have it? You have it? Now, the Yesh Leimar, you go down below that another 6 lines. Miu mismicha kasha. Amai itzrich krol lematinu. Why do you need a pasuk to exclude a woman from smicha? The avoida lo yischalel b'hachi. Kloimar, b'lo smicha nami ein hakrev basel b'kach. V'yesh lam, okay, v'yesh lam, that's not what I want. Right. V'yesh lam, kol man ritzes kol mutes tzachmina mishin dechsiv v'samach v'shachat is gesmicha l'shchita ma shchita kasher b'noshim kedenan b'zvachim. So this is the teretz, guys. Even though it's a mitzvah seseh shazman groma, you might think the following. It says v'samach v'shachat, v'samach yidu smita v'shachat. Iske smicha l'shchita. We make a hekesh ben smicha and shchita. Ma shchita ksher b'nashim, just like shchita is kosher b'nashim, as we're going to see in a few weeks. Kedetnan b'zvachim, u'maisi b'shmaita kamaisa the shchita skulin. Kol ha'psulin sheshachtu shchitas kshera, sheshchita ksher b'zarim u'b'nashim. Af, so too, af smicha kasher b'nashim. I would think, since we make a hekesh between smicha and shchita, that smicha would be good. L'hachi itzrich l'mute, right? Therefore, you need a pasuk to memayit, and this would answer the kasha, guys. Again, what's a kasha? Why do you need a pasuk to go ahead and be memayit a woman from smicha ayat mitzvah says shazman grama, and for Taisvis, since it says v'samach v'shachat, and you make a hechesh between smicha and shchita, and a woman can shech, so you might think she could do smicha also, despite the fact it's a mitzvah says shazman grama. Kamash malon, no, that's a Taisvis, and this is Taisvis and Lamed Vav and Kedushin answers the shaila over here in the Taisvis in Menachos Tzadik Gimel. Guys, got it? Right, it's nice. Okay, so two nice things. Okay.
Why isn't Shrita also considered something from, because it's only by day?
No, shchita is by night. You can shech the animal by night. You can't shech the korban by night. You can shech the animal by night.
Oh.
Chulin, you can shech the night, Reb David.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay, says the Gemara. It says shchita shiari mitzvah. Shchita is as Kenny would say, an iba komplement mitzvah. So smicha is shiari mitzvah. Tanrabanan. How do you know it's not ma'akiv? It says Tanra v'samach v'nirtza. What does the pasuk say? V'samach yada al reisha oila v'nirtza loy lechaper alav. He does smicha on the reisha oila. V'nirtza loy lechaper alav, and it appears it's merutza. It's a kapara. You're doing smicha and you're getting the kapara. Fred the Gemara. V'chi smicha mechaperes. Is smicha the one who gives you kapara? But ain't kapara ela bedam, right? It's only what the zrika. Shenamar ki adamu ahu benefesh yechaper. Elolay melecha shemasol smicha shiori mitzvah. If you make smicha shiori mitzvah, meaning you don't do it at all. You don't do it at all. Maila alav akosiv, the Torah considers it kilu like keeper, as if you didn't do it the keeper and you did. In other words, what is kilu like keeper? You didn't do a mitzvah min hamufcha, guys. Kill loykeeper, that you didn't do you didn't perform a mitzvah min hamufchar. That you didn't do, right? But you would get a kapara. V'tanya gabe tenufa ki agavna. We find the same dialogue by tenufa. The tenufa lechaper. This week's parsha, fellas. The pasuk says the tenufa lechaper. The lashon is v'im dalhu v'im yodem aseges v'lachach keves echad. If he's too poor and he can't afford 3 sheep, he takes one ashon l'tenufa lechaper alav. It says the tnufa lechaper alav. What do you mean tnufa lechaper? Tnufa is not mechaper, right? Tnufa mechaperes v'loyen kapara el bedam. Shenemar ki adamu benefesh yechaper. Eloim lecha shemasol the tnufa shari mitzvah. That you didn't make a shari mitzvah for not doing it. Ma'ila b'kasav kil loy keeper. The Torah considers if you didn't, but the keeper, in fact, what you were mechaper. It's just not, you didn't do a mitzvah min hamufchar. Where do you do smicha ala roish? Tan rabbanon yadai ala roish v'lo yadai ala tzavay. Not on the neck. Think about the bottom, the neck of the animal, right? It goes down. You do it on the bottom of the neck, you didn't do it. Yodei ala roish v'lo yodei ala gabayim, not on the back. Yodei ala roish v'lo yodei ala chayzen, not on the chest. Kol hani lamali, why do you need 3 limudim? Tzricha. Because I would say lamutei tzavar, I would get tzavar loika bahadei roishay. Since it's not on the same plane as the head, I would say that's out. Aval gaboy, the back, the koi lahadei it's parallel to Roshai Emaloi. I'd say Taka, you could do smicha there. Tzricha, tell me you can't. V'yashmin hani, these the neck and the back is right mishum delo yisrael l'tnufa because they're not in the ballpark of tnufa. Aval chaza, but the chest, the yisrael l'tnufa that's in the ballpark of tnufa by the chaza v'shaik, the by the shlamim. Emaloi, I would think that you do smicha, tzricha, tell me not. Iboilu yodei al tzadim. Let's say you put it on the cheeks, on the tzadim on the cheeks. Mahu tashma de Tanya Abba Biroi, right? The son of Rav Avoy, the Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. In the name of Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, yodei al Roshai v'lei yodei al tzadim. So we place the shaila on the head and not the cheeks. In other words, you get the cheeks, you look like you got the head of the animal, right? It's the beef cheeks. It's by the head. It's not the head. It means the head mamish. Boy, Reb Yirmiyam, matlis maushe tochatz. What happens if you have a cloth between your heads and the smicha? Let's say the guy's a little finicky. He doesn't want to go ahead and touch the animal. Tashma ubavashlei tehi dobe choitzes beinoi levenat zevach. You cannot have something between him and the zevach. It's a chatzitza. Ubeshtei yadayim. You put it with two hands. Mrani mili. How do you know two hands? Reish Lakish no makra. Now, guys, the Torah says with samach aron shtei yadov. Ksiv yadov. It's written yadoi. Yet it says what? We read it as Yadav. Guys, it's written as Yadai. The Ksiv is his hand, and the Kriya is his hands. So, Uksiv Shtei. Zeb Binyan Av, says Reish Lakish, Kol Malkam Shnema Yadai, Harikan Shnayim. Every time it says Yadai, it's two. Actually, Parlacha Kosav Achas. The Torah tells you one. So now, we read it like this. The Samach Aaron Shtei Yadav, both his hands, and it says Yadai. So we'll touch up. Anytime it says Yadai, it means two. Also, Reb Elazar went, and Reb Elazar was the Talmud Muvak Rabbi Yochanan, and he heard this from Reish Lakish. He said it over of Yadai, that anytime it says Yadai, it's considered two, but he didn't say it over in the name of Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish he was makbid. He was supposed to say Davish Shem Amrei. Amalei. So now Reish Lakish, his way of anger was to question Rabbi Elazar. If you can tell me every time it says Yadai means two, Lamali lemichtav Yadav, right? Why does it have to say Yadav? Yadav? Why does it say Yadav? And actually, Esrim Vidal Yadav. In other words, fellas, if Yadai means two, it should never in the Torah ever say Yadav. And he gave him 24 places in the Torah proper where it does say Yadav. In other words, if you don't have to say his hands to mean his hands, you can say Yado, his hand means his hands. Why does it ever say Yadav? So, for example, Yadav Tiviena, Yadav Ravloi, Shikeles Yadoi. These are three examples of it, right? Right? Ishtik, and Rabbi Elazar was silent. The Basid Daite, Yefta Lechaira, Rabbi Shlakish calmed down. Amalei, Rabbi Shlakish said to Rabbi Elazar, my time leitemeli Yadav desmicha kamri. In other words, the kasha yesu is in this kind kasha. You know, look at the other places where it says Yadav. Yadav tiviena, it's not speaking about smicha. Yadav ravloi, the bracha given that it's not smicha. Shiklas Yadai by Yosef and Ephraim and Menachos by Yaakov. So the Chayra, he should have said, Rabbi Elazar should have retorted to Rabbi Shlakish, I meant Yadai by smicha, not by those other places. Anyway, so Amalei, Rabbi Elazar said to Reish Lakish, B'smicha nami ksiv. By smicha it also says Yadav. V'yismoich es Yadav alav v'yitzaveyu. Okay? In other words, Moshe put his hands on Yeshua and he commanded him. So in other words, the kasha you're telling me is not a kasha. The reason I didn't say anything is because it does say Yadav by smicha. On that, Reish Lakish retorted, smicha de behema kamri. I didn't mean smicha by basav adam. I meant smicha by not by people. I meant by animals. So that's the question you could have asked me. So therefore, my kasha of Yadav is not a kasha. What does that mean? Yeah, I mean, he just
knew the answer, and he knew that it wasn't kasha.
Yes. That's rhetorical. When the Rebbe gets angry, that's what they do. Instead of saying, get out, Okay. Says the Gemara, "Uvemokim shesayim from shaychtin, take of the smith shchita." My kamar. What does that mean? What does one have to do with the other? It says hachi kamar. B'mokim shesayim in the place where you do smicha shaychtin. You know why? Should take of the smicha shchita, the place, the azara. Since you're going to have to do shchita right after the smicha, the male it has to be in the azara. Okay. You have 9. Can't get a million anymore.
James Bond only ended.
See if there's one. See if there's one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shem is Mali Asaf. Elohim al damilacha techrash v'tishkarel. Ki hinei avecha yemayim v'sinach v'nasiraish. Alamcha yarimu savi siatzu al tzvnecha. Amaru l'chu v'nachidim yigai v'leizach Hashem Yisrael. Ki hinawasa lev l'tav v'lecha b'sichreisu. Ahlei yadai mishmei limaya v'agrim. Gival v'amayin v'amalek peleshus m'yesh v'etzar. Gam asher nilba imam ha'yis v'yalef v'leit selah. Asay lehem ki midyan kisisrachi av v'menachal kishon. Nishbedu vein dar ha'yidem el adama. She say my did Ivema Karei v'chesei v'cheseva chukutz haman al kol nisichem Asher amru neshalonu esnais elahim Elahai shisem chakagak kakashef meruach Keish tivayoch lavat laheidarim Kainted the famous arechu b'svaschas v'aleim Alei f'nihem koloim v'vakshu shemcha Adonai Yevoshu v'yibalu adi abiachru v'yevedu V'yedu ki atot l'chadam v'lachayim konoretz Achenu kabeis Yisrael and the Sunnah Matzar Bashibya, home then Bain Bayam, Bain Bayabasha,